Well, hey there, everybody. Welcome to my booth. I am Jay, and today I'm going to walk you through how I record audiobooks, my setup as I'm recording, as well as some of the things that I do as I'm recording to help make my life a little bit easier, my recordings a little bit better, a little bit cleaner. Before we dive in, if you like this stuff, you find it helpful, and you think other folks might too, if you're willing to click the buttons down there, it helps them find us and we can help them out too. And if you want to support this channel directly, support these efforts, you can buy me a coffee. Link for that's down below. Or you can do the super thanks stuff here on YouTube. Give it a shot. Never necessary, always appreciated. So, here on my screen, I've got my layout. This is an audiobook I'm working on currently, the fourth installment of the Lance Spector series. And this is what it looks like as I'm recording. On the right here, I've got my manuscript set up so I can read that as I go. And then as I'm recording, I'll just let that go here. And the software I use to record is Reaper. And the reason I like Reaper are many. Firstly, it's cheap. I've sung its praises many times here on this channel, but I'll walk you through some of the things that I do in Reaper that just really help me out as an audiobook narrator. Firstly, you'll notice that my setup, my layout on Reaper, it might look a little bit different than what you have. I can't remember what the default layout is, but I've tailored the way that this looks, the windows that I have open, the way that each file starts when it's a new file. Everything's been tailored with presets to the way that I like it, the way that my voice works, the way my space is. And if you're curious about how to set up presets, I have another video on how to do presets in Reaper here on this channel elsewhere. The other thing you might notice is I record the entire thing, the whole audiobook on one track. And the reason I do that is primarily it's recording chronologically just makes it easier for me to keep track of things. Additionally, it makes the processing much, much easier in a couple of respects. Firstly, as long as I keep my levels the same, you'll notice here on the left side of the screen, I've got my UAD interface up. And my settings, I just keep them the same for the entire recording process. And as long as that's the same and consistent, and I'm using the same microphone in the same space, the sound should be pretty uniform across the whole audiobook recording. Doesn't matter if it's a 3-hour book, a 20-hour book, it's going to be relatively consistent. However, if you're producing audiobooks on your own, which oftentimes audiobook narrators, when we start out, we have to do the whole thing ourselves. We are the production team, the casting director, the actors, the whole thing. And by keeping everything in one track in my recording software, any of the post-processing that I apply is consistent as well through the whole recording. So if I open my FX tab here, you'll notice I've got all the things I'm punching in on my recording just here and ready to rock. And if I make any adjustments, either at this stage or if I finish production and I want to make any changes, by having it all on one track, any adjustments I make here, I have to do it once and it's applied to the whole book, which makes my life easier in the long run. I don't have to remember the settings chapter to chapter. It's just going to take care of the whole thing. Additionally, it just makes the sound more consistent, as I've said before. The other reason I like one-track recording is it makes selecting chapters really easy, at least here in Reaper. So if I record and as I'm recording, say this is a new chapter, we're going along, and the chapter has come to a close, I'll stop recording, and at this point, I'll do just a couple things to save myself some time at the final stage of production. Audiobooks, they require half a second to 1 second of room tone at the beginning of the recording. So in Reaper, I'll just find and make sure that I've got at least half a second. Usually I'll aim for about 0.7 seconds at the beginning. And then at the end of the recording, it needs to be between 1 second and 5 seconds of room tone. It's just something that they all request, so I'll make sure that I've got that at the end. And then I can just double click here on the timeline and it selects the entire chapter here, or what would be a whole chapter. And I can just make that a region. And I just go down here into my region marker and manager, and I can label that as the next chapter in my book. So that just makes everything really streamlined, and I can move really quickly and intuitively through this whole process. Additionally, as I'm going through my book and recording, any time that a character pops up for the first time, be it a relatively minor character or a major character, if you're recording an audiobook of any certain length, if you're like me, you'll have a few different voices that you're working with. And even one chapter later, I'll find that I've forgotten how I did someone's voice exactly. I'll know a ballpark, but it can help me save a lot of time and guesswork if I can just go back and listen to where they first showed up in the book. So as I'm recording, I'll just drop a little marker by clicking the M hotkey, and this little tab comes up, and then I can go in here and label it as whatever character I'm working with at that point. So this way, as I go through the book, and I've got a bunch of different characters here, oh, this character popped up again. Let me refresh my memory on how they sound. I can go back, listen to it, and I'm ready to rock. So that's another reason why the markers are really, really helpful in keeping things consistent. So that's as I'm recording, and it just helps make everything easier as we go. Then at the end of the process, the thing that I really, really like about Reaper is, well, one of them is the rendering process. So if we open up my rendering window here, again, I've set up presets that make my life really easy and simple here. And if you're curious, I have another video on that. But if in the presets, I just go down to all settings, and I've got an audiobook render preset, which pulls everything up that I need the way I need it to be, because audiobooks have very specific standards that they're going for, both in terms of the file format and in terms of the loudness. And again, the beautiful thing about Reaper is it removes all of the guesswork here at this stage. Instead of fiddling around with limiters, worrying about normalizing to certain things, I just normalize to whatever RMS value I need. For audiobooks, that's minus 23 dB to minus 18 dB. Every chapter needs to be within that range. This makes it totally consistent every time. I just put minus 21. The limit, all of the chapters, they have to have peaks at minus 3 dB. Boom, easy. And then I fade in and fade out about half a second and then about a second and a half, just to make the start and end of each chapter really smooth. So instead of the listener getting an abrupt ending of sound, it just glides off, it fades out, which just, it's a better listening experience overall, I think. And so those are the things that I do as I'm recording that just make my life really easy here in Reaper. And at the end of the day, when I'm ready to proof my audiobook, I use Positron. I'm not affiliated with them, but they're a wonderful company, and they just make proofing really easy. And for me, I have a little bit, I'm not a diagnosed dyslexic, but I have trouble sometimes listening to my own voice and tracking the words to make sure I'm hitting everything perfectly. And this just takes out some of the guesswork and helps me make sure that I'm not missing stuff. So when you pull it open, the way Positron works, you pay a subscription and then you pay per hour of audio that you upload. If you're curious, they can walk you through. They were wonderful with the setup process for me. Then you just upload your chapters as well as the manuscript, and it gives you these chapter breakdowns as well as how many errors you made. And I'll just listen through. Oftentimes I'll punch up the speed because I trust my own pacing at this point. And you can mark things as a pickup, you can mark things as totally fine, maybe I don't need to fix that. If there's a character voice that you want to iron out, you can make a note for that by highlighting something and checking exactly what you want to do. And then when you're done proofing everything, you can go to export and export DAW markers, which come into your software here, and it'll look just like this, where you'll get these little red markers, and it shows you exactly where you have to punch in your audio after you've proofed it and listened through to everything, which just makes the revision process much, much simpler and easier. And that's how I do audiobooks, from beginning to end, and make it as easy and simple for myself as I can. If you've got any questions about this, anything else voiceover related, feel free to drop me a line below, or reach out via my website, where I've also got coaching, both via email, correspondence, or over Zoom, whatever suits your schedule or needs. And until the next one of these, I'll see you then, and be well. Toodles.